some pictures from the old photo evenings that you can take home if there it goes. So if you send in the picture, you can bring it home after the photo evening. And now I will leave you over to Vesa Hoikas. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Vesa, V-E-S-A, and Hoikas is my last name. I'm Finnish, but my roots are actually in Karelia and north of St. Petersburg. Like both of my parents are from there, and then during World War II they moved here, and I was born in this area in 1968. And so first, this is my title for the lecture, and photography for me is very personal experience, and kind of for me the reason to photograph is the art of it, and kind of this self-discovery, and more than, let's say, like technical things or making money with it or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of different types of photography, and different people do different things with the same tools, like in everything else, like in writing or painting, or same thing here. But this, I kind of structured my speech about how I feel about photography and what I have discovered along the way, and kind of insights and inspirations and things that I've noticed along the way. And a lot of things, after you've done it, they seem so simple, but initially you struggle to find out like what are you doing, and what are you seeing, and how it happened. So there's still a lot of mystery in photography, so nobody can tell it all, but hopefully I can shed some light on the issues that I've discovered along the way. And first I'd like to show that picture in the background is actually a photograph that I took. I should actually ask my sister. I was probably maybe 13, 14 years old. It's this one. That's the actual print of it. I took the photograph, and she was studying. She was older than me. She was studying photography, and she did this print for me, for my image. And really, this was like the first roll of film that I was shooting. And this was one of the frames from there. And obviously, I've saved it throughout the years, and kind of like you save things from your childhood. But then at some point, I started looking at it. I'm like, that's what I'm really doing right now. That it's just like that photography at its best. It's kind of a thing that's inside of you, and then you just keep repeating it throughout your life. I mean, you think like you're different person, or you learn something new about it, but I think the biggest strength in photography is that you're true to yourself, and you photograph what you see as valuable or interesting or whatever. And so I always go back to that image, and kind of this is photography, which is kind of the idea that that the picture is not really about what's in the picture. like here, it is much more meaningful than just an old bike. That it's more about kind of the feeling and what the viewer sees in the image and reflects than what's in the picture. That everybody kind of makes their own story. But if it's a powerful enough image, there's something in the image that reflects back to the viewer, and that's to me that's the power of photography overall. And please, if you have, I like interruptions, so if you have questions, or if you want to challenge me on some things that I say, please feel free, because I think photography is about connecting and about dialogue also, even though it's one image or a bunch of images and it's one person's view of the world. It's still a connection between people, and I like to show my photographs. I don't want them to stay in the closet or somewhere hidden. To me, that's the greatest compliment, is that somebody looks at my photographs and thinks about it, and that it somehow connects with another person. That's really the reason I do it. And here I'm kind of illustrating the idea. There's a bunch of my photographs from different subjects and different years and different tones, and that picture is not about what it is about. Like, it's not about the specific thing in the picture. I see it more of a reflection of an idea or a feeling or something kind of more powerful than just like that's a window kind of idea. So I'm just illustrating few of them, showing them a little bigger. Like, I don't know, what do you think about what comes into your mind when you look at that as a, like, one word or?
Cold.
Yeah.
Is cold.
Yeah. I look at it, I'm thinking like old age and kind of like closing in and then slowly like kind of dying, kind of depressive, but the sun is still shining on the old person. And here's some other ones. There's my daughter jumping on the rocks in the archipelago, and obviously this is very symbolic to whatever, and at the same time it's the scenery from the archipelago. So, and always in the picture, if there's somebody that you know, it changes your view of the image. I mean, it's a different meaning for me if it's my daughter than if it's somebody just I don't know. And that you always have to take that into account especially when you judge your own photos. You're very sentimental about things that you know more about than some other people who don't know the people. So I could advertise right now that I have an exhibit at the old town hall gallery. Some postcards here from the gallery that you can take, and it's until 9th of February, so it's about a week and a half left. And I'll talk later about the subject of that show, but anyway, when I was choosing photographs for it, I had to be careful to think about that people who go there to see them don't know the background story. Some people know a little bit about me and my history, but a lot of people don't know anything about the people in the pictures. And so when you look at them, and if you're presenting pictures or if you're submitting your work to a contest, you have to kind of exclude all that background information and try to look at the photograph just by itself, kind of pure object, in a sense that if you're trying to judge like yourself, like which image is good to show to other people, that's one way to how you can kind of determine what would interest other people, is trying to block that background away. Here's some other. This is just when I was walking on the bridge in the outer river, and just different patterns when it was freezing a couple of years ago. Kind of abstract ideas. This is one of the boats along the river, closer to the harbor. And I was just thinking of how that shadow goes around the window, and kind of this abstract idea that still people understand that it's a boat. And here's the Aura River. There was a hailstorm a couple of years ago, and this was shot from the closer to the where the Above Etus Museum is. And here's just the reflection on the water in the archipelago. I was interested in the patterns of the weeds and the water and the sun, and kind of this idea of just let your mind wander around the image. And this was one of these hard winters when there was a lot of snow and it was cold, and we had the ice lantern in front of our house. So I was thinking that tonight is a good day to photograph, and I walked all around the city looking for like a good shot. And then at the end of it, I came to my own door and I started looking at the ice lantern. And I'm like, this was the best shot of the night. And it really became symbolic. It's like sometimes you need to go across the world to get a good shot. Sometimes you go to your door and you take a good shot. It's not about the distance you traveled or how long you wait for the good shot. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but you have to keep working at it, keep photographing it. I mean, there's a lot of bad shots, especially nowadays when you don't have to worry about film and developing and all that. So you should always take the extra shot and just see what happens. And to me, kind of like how photography becomes an art is, it's like you go through steps, and probably in any other art form too. I mean, you can't like skip certain steps. You can't just suddenly take great photographs. I mean, it's a process, and you kind of have to enjoy the process, because that's really the price for learning photography, is that you discover things about yourself and other people and other cultures or whatever. And this is a photograph I took in the Halistenkoski, the dam in the couple miles up the river. And how I see the photograph itself is very symbolic, kind of the idea that first you sit down and then you start flying, and at the end you fly away. Kind of how you learn to be a better person, or how you learn to photograph. I mean, you can't just do it all at once and just do it. You have to do it gradually, and you can't skip much of your learning. I mean, there's like you have to do the hard work to get there. And this is just some ideas of, like I said, the photography to me is like a personal. Like when I look through the camera, I'm kind of trying to look at myself through it. And it's like your view of the world, which is very unique. You know, everybody has their own idea what world is about, what life is about. Somehow, if you can translate that into a picture, that's when other people start seeing that there's something valuable in it, and they can connect with it. Here's just this simple shot through the Turku Cathedral window, kind of illustrating the idea of like when you look through the camera, how and here you're looking through the window, how the world changes when you start framing it, and when you start kind of distorting your world in a sense, because you start composing it and things like that. And that's how you start getting your own ideas into the image, when you start doing those judgments. And of course, afterwards when you have 100 or 200 photographs and you choose like 2 and you say like this represents my idea of that thing or that trip or that person. You're kind of projecting your own ideas, like what world looks like. And then, like I said, like sometimes you have to go across the world, and sometimes you can find something in your backyard. And just, I'm always trying to look out for kind of the simple things and simple ideas, because most of the time those are the strongest, and they kind of stand the test of time. And then when you make elaborate plans and kind of productions and things like that, there's value on it, but a lot of times you can't plan it too much ahead. You have to kind of be able to adjust in the moment and see what happens. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't prepare. I mean, technically you should prepare. You should have your batteries loaded and cameras ready, and you should eat before you go shooting, and you have to prepare in that sense that your mind is in a space where you can concentrate on the photography. That you don't have to think about, oh no, I gotta go bathroom or whatever. When you notice that there's something happening, that this is the moment that now I should really concentrate, and those moments are the greatest to me as a photographer, when you kind of feel it that now something's happening, and you know that it's a good picture. A lot of times you take a picture and you later find out that it's a good one. You didn't have that feeling. That happens a lot too. But when you're in the flow of things, I mean, that's magic in a sense. And then you just photograph, and you're like so sure that okay, this will work. And here's just these simple ideas, kind of like this is. I took these pictures when I was in my summer vacation in the archipelago, and it's like sketching, shooting here and there, and I took probably like 100 or 200 pictures of the water, and then I selected one. And this is just from the city. I mean, every night, in a sense, you could take a picture, something like this. I mean, I've done a lot of architectural photography, and in one level, it's very easy because the buildings stand still, and there's no, it doesn't suddenly move somewhere. and only lately, I've started shooting people because that's more challenging. And initially, I was thinking like I'm not gonna do it because it's so difficult. But lately, I found out how much joy I get out of it. So I kind of did a lot of landscape, nature, architecture, and nowadays I'm much more interested in people in the landscape or in the city. And then weather is always playing a role, and you get some great shots. Same place looks so different in different weather. That's from in front of the cathedral by the tower. Light, obviously, I mean, you always need light somewhere, but things like that against the light, it's always fun to shoot when people look like shadows, and you get lots of patterns on the structures and shapes. This one, I got a chance to photograph a wedding in Jamaica. And this was just on a trip there, and I was looking at that guy. I'm like, well, he looks just like his statues. It was just perfect kind of view of him. Initially, I was thinking I want to go really close, but then I noticed that it gives a nice frame to his image to have the statues and him in the picture. Shadows. Oh, I had this one earlier.
Can I ask something about
Sure.
that picture? What kind of weather was it when you shot that? Because you
Which one?
The one with the shadow.
Okay.
On the road.
What kind of weather?
Yeah, because usually when it's really sunny, then you have those nice shadows, but then when you take a picture of it and it's something really bright, then it just...
Yeah, I think it was fairly sunny. And probably the kind of the exposure metering was happening with that light color, so it worked out. The dark is kind of dark, so if there would be a person here, he or she would be probably too dark. But because I kind of exposed for the white part of it, the picture works. And there's a lot of latitude nowadays. With the digital camera, I mean, there's a lot of things you can save afterwards, if it's too dark or if it's too light. I do a lot of editing in that sense. Editing by choosing the image, but also pulling up, light or making it darker. So that's kind of the second part of the fun of photography, is the editing part and looking for kind of initially I look at the image and I decide that, well, this is a good picture, and then I kind of look at it another time and think about how I could make it speak more about what it's about, and if I turn it black and white, would it make it better, or if it has more color or less color, but this image is pretty much like it was shot. There's not much that I've done to it afterwards. This was associations, like kind of this idea. Sometimes it happens when I'm feeling something. I was skiing in the archipelago one of the winters when the sea was frozen. I was going around the islands, and then I was thinking about this friend of mine that I haven't seen in a long time. I kind of felt like I really want to see her, and I had this like sad feeling, and then I was looking at the snow, and there was this kind of patch of snow along one of the islands, and then I named this Tears of Winter, because it was really like an eye that had tears flowing from it, and so it's one of my favorite kind of abstract and kind of very self-explanatory image, what it's about. But I just think it's and obviously because I have the idea that why I shot it, it's different than for somebody who's just looking at it plainly. But I've had a lot of people commenting on it because they kind of feel the feeling.
And
Sure.
When I saw it, I thought it looked like a rain cloud.
Yeah.
It's a very dark cloud with or
that's true.
Snowfall.
So it's also kind of this negative, a little bit of like a sad feeling. So it works in that sense too. And then there are all these accidents. This is an accident from Paris. This is a close-up of the photograph when I was photographing Eiffel Tower. And this was like my favorite shot when I was just shaking by accident the camera. I mean, because it became more like a Monet's pointillism painting or something. That's the close-up and that's the actual image. Kind of reflected more on the Eiffel Tower than the sharp pictures that I had of the tower. And here's another accident. There's an accident from this is actually the tower that I was on top of it when I was shooting the Eiffel Tower, and there were some skaters or skateboarders underneath. I took a lot of pictures of them, and I was kind of focusing on this guy. And then just after I had come all back home and I was editing it, and I noticed like, well, here's a great picture because there's the guy on the crutches, because he's been hurt. There's the guy who's falling, and there's the guy who's still riding. So there's like these 3 steps of of an accident. Like first you think you can do it all, and then you fall down, and the next thing you know you're on crutches. But this is an accident to me because when I shot it, I was like just thinking like I gotta get this guy focused and straight, and I didn't notice the other guy falling or the third guy standing by, but I took probably, I don't know, maybe 50 pictures of those guys, and if I had just taken that one picture that I was happy with at the time, because I had him doing some trick and it looked good when I was looking at the camera, I wouldn't have caught this one, which was much better, a much stronger image afterwards. So keep those accidents happening. And here's some kind of these architectural shots. Sometimes it's nice when the image is very centered and very stable and just very still. There's still magic in it, even though there's nothing moving, there's no people. Here's that tower, and because it has that construction piece there, I think I like that image. And here's that Turku triptych with 3 pictures. And only later I start thinking, oh, there's no people in there, in none of them. So this could be, really, this image could be, from 100 years ago, because I think the restaurant was built like in 1850, 1860, and the castle is old and the church is old, and so I started looking at this set of images, kind of these timeless shots of Turku, even though this was taken 2013 and this is like 2012 and that's like 2008 or something. So let's go further. Then copying ideas, just do it. Because you can't invent a wheel, and you see somebody doing something, you should go and try it out and see, because a lot of times what happens is like you can get almost the same picture, but then you realize like, well, when I do it like that, it actually makes it more interesting to myself. You learn a lot by copying ideas, and especially in photography. Because then when you copy an idea, you have to think about how it was done, and then when you have motivation to learn something new, then it's a new trick in your bag that you can utilize later when you're shooting something else. So I think you just try a lot of things. Like here, this was in Paris too. This was kind of like the Beatles shot or whatever, the famous when they walk across the street. But this was kind of funny. Later, I thought this was a funny shot. When I was shooting it, I didn't think about it much. I was just thinking of the sidewalk and the car and the people crossing the street. And then this is very personal. 2 very personal photographs that kind of what I've done in my studio, which is in the next block. Actually, I live like right there. You see right there in one of the wooden houses. I have a big wall that I pin up my photographs, and that's why I think it's not always good to look at your photographs in the computer, because what happens is you mostly look at one photograph, or they're so small thumbnails that you can't really see them. But when you make prints and you put them up on the wall next to each other, you suddenly start seeing like connections. Like this photograph I took in 2001 on top of World Trade Center in New York. That was 6 months before the towers went down, because I got engaged on top of that roof. At that time, I was thinking, we can always come back here, And this photograph was from last March, when I was shooting dancers in New York. This is in 280 Broadway, the address. About, I would say like a mile or 2 miles from this spot. And now there's a new tower. But then, when I had these 2 photographs together, I started looking at this. There's the twin towers, two towers, next to each other, and there's this kind of like a doom coming, like because these dancers are all moving towards me. I was lying on the floor and shooting, and then this place, this is a dance studio that is like a New York Institute for Dance, but it went bankrupt in October last year, so there's no dance studio anymore. So there's the twin towers again, the kind of the same idea what happened to these twin towers. I can't help but to kind of project my idea of this kind of a disaster coming when I look at that picture. And this image is part of my exhibit in the Old Town Gallery, and that's kind of my reading of it. But obviously, people don't think like that because they don't know the history behind it. But that's how I see how I'm like in the picture without taking a picture of myself. It's like my history is in the photograph. And then here's some other what happened when I put two pictures next to each other. Old is new. Like this is the shot from the archipelago, the reflection that I showed earlier, and this is in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, New York City, last March. And it's the same thing, like if you look at the composition and these things, going. Now when I look at it, I'm like, I'm looking for the same shapes, and even though it's totally different environment, different country, there's person in there, that's an abstract thing. But I started to see patterns and when I kind of, I feel good about it because I kind of feel that I'm close to like my idea of photography when I find those patterns. Here's this shot, and this was taken in 1986 in Michigan. And here again, I'm looking at that's the same thing. What's happening? Here's the window, there's the window, here's this blob, and I'm kind of like somehow my mind thinks like this. And here's same thing. That's 2010. These are 4 carrots from the Turku Market Square. And I bought them. Actually, the gardener gave it to me because they said nobody will buy them. And I put them on a scanner and put my fleece jacket over it, and I scanned it. So that's not a photograph. And then this is a New York dancer from last March in the dance studio. And I'm looking at this like composition. I see the same, the ideas repeating itself, and that just happened when I put prints together, and I have a wall of prints. But I didn't realize it earlier. And one thing is always good is to challenge yourself. When you get to a certain point in your photography, and like I said, it's good to repeat yourself, but if the images actually look the same, then it's not good. You somehow have to get past take the next step. And you should collaborate with people. You should enjoy all the arts, music, movies, whatever, anything, because all the arts have something to give to your art. If you're doing photography for art, and you get ideas, and then when you have other people working with you, they give you so much more energy and ideas than what you can do by yourself. So this is just kind of illustrating how I got into photographing dance, because I never really. I haven't been into like modern dance or ballet or anything. But I realized when I started working with dancers that because they are artists, or at least the good dancers are, it kind of brings into the image. It brings a lot more than just photographing a model who's posing for you, because they are not posing for you. You kind of documenting their art, so you get this extra layer of meaning. And that's the end. This was when I went to New York to photograph those dancers. This was the first place where they took me, and that was the end. And so that's at the exhibit. I have these two pieces because the end is really the new beginning. So that's my speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here are those postcards for the exhibit. There's the place which is actually by the if you go to the Turku Cathedral, you go across the street. There's the old Great Square and the yellow building in the corner. That's where the gallery is at. Sure.
Yeah. You mentioned that you have roots in Karelia.
Yeah.
So, are you interested at all in photographing that region since, well, after the Soviet Union collapsed, it's actually possible to go there?
Yeah.
But are you
in that sense, I've been twice back there, and actually the house where my father, which he helped build, it's still up there.
Oh.
So, yeah, and I photographed there, but it was last time I was there was 1999, I think. So I haven't been back for a while. So I have some photographs from the place, and I've done. Then my mother was born in an island that's deserted now, and I actually I did this like a collage with photographs for her about the place that she has on the wall. Because my father has been back many times, but my mother never wants to go because she's too sad that it's not like her home anymore. So yes, I photograph. But it'll be good to go again. No, after a few years. Here are some of the. I showed you some of the prints, and then there's this. You can just when we go for coffee and stuff. Here's the book. I'm doing this self-published book from my New York project, and this is kind of I'm still working on it, but it's the review copy, and it kind of shows kind of the method that I'm planning to work now, where I have modern dancers in the city environment, and this was in New York, and in the spring I will go to Helsinki. I have the Finnish National Ballet dancers. I will do the same thing in the streets, and maybe in the harbor and some other areas in Helsinki. And then in the fall I'm going to Shanghai to shoot dancers there in the city environment. So that's kind of the shows about that. And then let me show. Here's when I started doing the exhibit, I started experimenting on printing on aluminum. So this is like 100% aluminum, and this is kind of a test print. But I didn't like it enough that I chose this kind of a little bit flat. After experimenting, I did the whole exhibit on brushed aluminum composite. So you can take, when you look closer, you can see how it reacts with light. And I was interested in, especially when here the dancer and the background kind of mesh together, and you start losing like where the dancer ends and where the wall begins, and then with the metal, that kind of works well with when it's printed on aluminum. So You can take a look at these closer when we put the lights on if you want. So in the exhibit I have, it's all done in this style with the big ones are about 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters big. And here are some other prints. Kind of shows the way I work is usually I do a lot of prints. I have like closets full of them because it starts to kind of live a new life when you put it on the paper, and it's nice to look at them on the screen, but the print gives an extra layer to it. So you can just feel free and you can ask about. This is like in the Death Valley in Nevada or California actually. This is the state of California from like 1991 or something. So that was shot in a slide film that I scanned. And here are some of those New York prints. I was looking for which ones to make kind of big. But it's a good way to work is to do a lot of prints and then just lay them around and let them stay for a few days and then look at them after a while, because it's like you don't always see the right away like what's good and what's valuable. And here's that's in Ruissalo, actually close. If you're going to the botanical gardens, so that's close by. On the fall. But here I was interested in the kind of this watercolory feeling of it. Then when you print it on this type of paper, it kind of gives it a nice texture. Let's see if there's here.
Do you still shoot on film sometimes, or have you just switched to digital?
No, I don't shoot in film. I tried. I actually bought this old, what was the name? It was from Russia, this camera, this like a really old, like 1950s camera that cost like 60 euros from eBay. And then I was thinking like, oh, I start shooting with that. And then I bought the film and it was like 8 frames and then I scanned it and I'm like, oh my God, it's too much work, you know. So I'm glad I didn't go to New York with that kind of camera, you know. So, no, I must say that I really enjoy Photoshop and all the digital tools because I like to work with the computer and I like to work the image. Not necessarily change it too much, but I like to tweak it. It's just a great tool. And a lot of times I make, you know, like these 2 images. This is the color, and that's a black and white, and it's the same spot. And I like to experiment, like which one works. And when you would film, well, you could scan it too, but that defeats the purpose. You're kind of stuck with what you got. And so I don't work with film anymore. Yeah. I know some people swear by it, and it has its own nice qualities, and probably works with certain type of photography, but not the way I do it right nowadays.
How did you get in touch with those dancers from New York? I mean, do they know you from somewhere, or do you know one person from the group, so you're going to photograph them?
Initially, yeah, it was kind of how this trip happened was kind of funny because I read in the Turku newspaper about a year ago, December on 2012, I think, there was this artist residency in New York for jazz musicians and dancers. And I was like, oh, I should apply as a photographer, you know. And then I was thinking, well, I need some excuse that why I apply for it as a photographer. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot dancers in New York. I'm a photographer, but I'm going to photograph dancers. And they gave it to me. So, so then I had to figure out, and I had a connection. I had this, I was there in 2001. I had a dancer that I knew, that I met at that time, and she was living in Harlem. But I knew that she already had quit dancing, but I was thinking like, well, maybe she still is in touch with dancers. And that's how I got these two guys who are just amazing modern dancers, are very dedicated to their art. And this was really like, if I had done like research wherever on the internet or whatever, I never could have connected with them. I needed that one person who knew those guys. So it's like, if you're planning to shoot somewhere that's a foreign place for you, you should really try to somehow get in touch with local people through some connection, because it opens the world to you different way than if you look at in the tourist information, you know. Because they'll show all the Broadway places and stuff, but these guys are like, you know, Broadway, that's the commercial stuff, you know. Don't touch that. And so yeah, you need connections, you need luck, and you need to work. I mean, I emailed a lot of people, but then thankfully the one person that I really thought would be the connection wrote back to me. You know, it took a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do if she doesn't, you know, email me? And so the project kind of changed after I started working with them. I mean, then I really knew what I was doing. Before that, it was, I said like it was jazz in a sense that it was improvised, that I was playing my instrument, but until these other guys showed up, I didn't really know what I was doing. And after that, it went great. And it worked out very well, because these guys, when they got excited from these pictures, they called their friends, and then in New York, like probably any other big city, you know, the news travels fast. The next day I'm shooting on Broadway, and the next day I'm shooting their friend who's dancing on one of those images. So after you get the ball rolling, it's easier. But so now when I go to Shanghai, I have one connection right now, and she said she knows 3 more dancers, so that's where it starts. But I'm trying to get probably a couple of different types of dancers, because same thing happened in New York. I had another connection, and I loved shooting them and working with them, but the photographs didn't really turn out that great, I don't think. So I mean, you gotta kind of try a lot of things when you're not really sure about the results. That you can't just think like that one person that you'll get great photographs from the one contact. So same thing if you go and do travel photography. I mean, you might have been planning all along that you go to this one spot and you take that shot and that's great, and then it's not. I mean, you have to have some options and try different things. Yeah. So thankfully, there are a lot of cities in the world, so I can keep doing this. Moscow would be good. Because it's a great way to explore. Like this place was actually where these two guys live. It was like 2 blocks from their house, but it's one of those places where I'd never go. I mean, it's not in the tourist book. So, and then when you show up, you know, there, it's like you get this rush of when you're in a new place, you're like, your mind is kind of, for a while, you're like looking around, everything is new, and then when you photograph that and you can capture that feeling, then it feels really fresh. So that's the benefit of connecting with local artists.
Does anyone have any questions, or do you want to go for a coffee break? You can probably ask questions after the lecture.
Sure.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.